Hey guys, I know a lot of us are looking at cases to store equipment and stuff when we're off-roading. So picked up a case recently, so thought I'd do a quick review of it. So I got this case from Autometric Outlet 2021, eBay seller. So yeah, it's a eBay case. So no surprise where this is probably going, right? I did reach out to them. Yes, there were some observations with the case that I'm fixing to go over, but they were very responsive. They were, I think, appropriately respectful about the issues. I sent them pictures and talked to them about some of the stuff, and they certainly acknowledged that the case should not be operating that way. But when I showed them the case, and it seemed like in the end they said, well, no, this is kind of normal. I point that out because if all cases are coming this way, then definitely not something that you want to purchase. Now this is an HQ issue long case, rifle case. It measures on the interior 40 by 13 by 4.5. Exterior is 41 by 14 by 5.5. So I'm not looking at going over like the features of the case or anything, because it's a case, and really this is more of just a review and speaking to the issues of it. So the latches are pretty easy to unlatch. Two-piece latches, so pretty easy to latch back down as well. But getting to really the issue and criticism here is that when it latches down in front, this is actually pretty tight in here. It's pretty good. But if I can take my fingers and bend that plastic, to me, that's kind of a concern. If I squeeze it here, the edge along the bottom is pressing into the rubber. So I mean, it's tight in there. So I think in the front, and I'd say even the rear, there's a pretty good seal here. I know I can't convey through the video, but when I push on it, I can feel that lip pressing against the rubber. But one thing to point out here is that when I do that right at the latch, you can see that latch is moving. So one thing is, I do think the latches could be a little more snug, but I think that's probably adequate, especially for the price range of the case. The concern is, and we can kind of just pan over here, especially around the latches, you can see there's a little bit of gap between them. It gets tighter around the latch, but then as we come over here to the side, this gets huge. This is beyond, I think, reasonable gap. This should not be the case. And so when I push on this, I can barely feel that seal press against that bottom lip, and that is really, to me, unacceptable for what they advertise. So something I'm going to try to capture, but I don't know that I'm going to get the angle on it really well, is that gap there. Now I do have weight inside the case currently, but hopefully you can see where the bottom lip is hitting on that seal, and I can take my fingers, my thumb, and raise up, and you can see the gap there. I'm not having to put a lot of force there, and then when I squeeze that together, there's a lot of movement, and so it is not even. I can see a gap, and I don't know if right now if that translates in the video, but I can see a gap in there already that closes up when I pull it too. So this, if you have this mounted on a rooftop rack or something in weather, this is not sealed. Rain, even light, you're going to get moisture inside that case, no question about it. And the other side is just as bad. You've got, I think appropriate kind of gap tolerance here. That's pretty good and snug. Of course, it gets tighter here, but then if we follow this on around, then it really shows how big of a gap there is on that side. And to me, this case is not so deep that we should be seeing that significant of a gap on the edges. So to open it up, again, I've got some stuff in there, but the lid is pretty soft, I think. The issue here that I want to point out is really more in terms of this seal. And the issue in part is that this seal is very much inside of that valley. And so when this closes in the rear and in the front, then it does so much tighter because that seal is inside there. This lip is able to go further in there, and so that closes a lot tighter in the back and in the front. Then what happens though on the edges, you follow this seal and it starts to, it's out further. I don't know if you can catch it, but it sticks out further than even the case, the lid. So it goes inside the valley, starts to protrude out here on the edge. So there's no way that this lid is going to be able to close as tightly as the front or back in terms of protecting it from moisture, dust. This is just not sealing properly. And when I talked to the company that sold it, and were ultimately saying, yeah, that's pretty normal that it's fitting tight against that seal, it's not. And I have gone through and I've done everything I can to push on this seal on both ends to get it to fit in there more snugly. I've taken a pair of pliers and with the case closed tried to push on it to see if I could get that lip to push that in there. Nothing works. I've even pulled this out and to see if there was any obstruction in that valley, and there's nothing there. I can't even see where there is a difference in depth, in the front or rear of the lid versus the edges. It does look uniform in terms of the molding. There's something either with the seal or just maybe where the case has been closed, and because there's a much tighter pressure on the hinge side or the latch side, maybe it's pushed that rubber and it's collapsed. Whatever the reason, it could be that when I pulled the seal out, it's almost like the section of rubber here is thinner than on the edge. So there's a part of me that can't help but wonder if the manufacturer did not already know that the lid is going to bow at the edges, and so they thickened that seal so that when the case is closed up, there is a better seal, a tighter seal, or at least it looks like it's sealing better. So it looks like maybe they did something with the seal in order to bypass a problem with the lid design. Maybe the lid is just too soft, and that's kind of my thought in it. For the edges to bow like it does, that seems pretty soft to me. And comparatively, I've gone to Harbor Freight, looked at the Apaches and the kind of similar long cases, closed much tighter. Lid was, I felt like, a little firmer, and everything went in that lip, which is kind of typical went right into the lid where the rubber seal was, closed up perfectly. So even comparatively to me, the Apache is a much better buy than this. So HQ issue has some issues. It's a pass.